prize winner. Joining me today,
Guy Smith.
Guy Smith, and the multitude of nicknames, the heavy hitter, forever man with guns, Reverend Guy Smith, GES 1032, and somewhere I have to fit in 0 height.
0 height, and the album though. You always leave out the album though. Which is mine.
I forgot it.
To this day, my favorite one. But
goodness, I thought I had that thing locked down and memorized and all over. Well, you're the fourth person interviewed on the 10 most influential people in Central Illinois.
Okay.
And we'll lead off with looking back. You've been at it for 10, 12 years now. How'd you get your start into it?
New Midwest at the time was the Midwest Wrestling Alliance, and they had just opened up. I had been in college for a year, and I decided not to continue my collegiate career. So I came back to Springfield, and it was actually Scotty Cash who was involved first, and said, "Hey, you ought to come out and check this out." And I came and watched him wrestle a couple times, and then started training. And the rest is history.
And how have you evolved over time? That's a broad question.
That is a broad question.
Covering 10 years, but start with the early days and then work your way through the different eras.
For wrestling?
Yeah.
Or character, or what do you mean specific?
Pretty much the whole ball of wax. Guy Smith, as a person, as a wrestler, as a personality.
I would say just overall, a lot of maturity. When I first started, I was in a rough place. I took to wrestling very well. It was something that I enjoyed quite a bit, and I was good at. I was not a natural, but I picked things up very easy. And when wrestlers start out, I think all young wrestlers focus on the moves and learning the moves. So from a wrestling standpoint, in the very beginning, I was very move-oriented. I had a wide list of moves that I used. And as I matured, my first step into maturity, I think, was when I won the New Midwest title and became a main eventer. And the way I matured was that I had to learn how to put on a main event match and learn how to close the show. And there's just certain expectations that are different for a main event match versus a mid-card match or an opener. And even beyond that, you got to be able to close the show. If the show runs long and it's 10:30 and it's time for your match, you still have to go out there and have that main event match in 5 minutes because the people are ready to go home. So I mean, you just got to be, I guess, learning to put on that main event match and learning to be adaptable, I would say, was a big evolution for me. After that point, I started getting out a lot and taking more bookings, and I would say that in my maturation there, I learned to work with anybody on the fly, which is an invaluable skill, because they're guys. It's one thing when I wrestled at New Midwest, and I wasn't a guy who would come in during the week and rehearse my match ever. But I worked with all those guys. We trained. We had an understanding of the chemistry and the timing and everything just from being in training. Now I'm going out there and wrestling guys I've never met before. Guys have no idea what they do in the ring, and you got to be able to pick it up and go on the fly.
Such as tonight, the Dudesons.
Right, tonight I got to wrestle the Dudesons. Never met them before, never seen any of them. And as a tag team champion, I still have to be able to go out there and put on a championship caliber performance. So that was an important process, in my maturation. And then I just, as I progressed from there, going to Harley's, and there's a level that you hit where it stops being about the match as much as it is about the crowd. And I would say that's a level, that's a level where I pushed the moves aside, I pushed the pressures of being in the main event aside, and I wasn't in the main event, so I was not the champion then. So I was getting to explore a little more, adjust my style some, and really I went through a phase then where I focused solely on the crowd. And all my matches, I'm sure at that time, looked different because my match changed on a flip, you know, on a switch, depending on how the crowd reacted, you know, if they reacted to something, what I felt like they wanted to see that night. And now I would say, you know, that kind of brings me up to now. Well, I went through a brief period where I was really into the high spot wrestling that like Ring of Honor and stuff does, and I was trying to, develop my style into that type of a style, which really doesn't fit and really isn't a style that I'm comfortable with. So I suppose it's definitely a sign of maturing that I was able to go, well, this is not how I'm going to be able to wrestle, and kind of set that aside. And now I'm in a phase certainly where I'm trying to bring it all together to where that I can work within a move set, that the fans will be able to get familiar with. I can still alter my match to react, to how they're reacting, and I'm still trying to bring together to where, I can have, sometimes I can have the match that it is main event caliber. Sometimes, we fit in the mid card. With being the tag team champions, our matches actually end up being needed to fit different spots. Sometimes we need a solid mid-card match. Sometimes we need to deliver a main event championship match. So just trying to bring all those elements together and to get them to gel as smoothly as possible in the process is where I'm at now.
What has kept you going all these years? A full decade.
Just the love of the business.
And you're Mr. NMW, practically. As far as I'm concerned, you're Mr. NMW. You're a wrestler of the decade, probably going to be the only wrestler of the decade, depending on how long the Midwest goes.
The constantly changing environment has kept me going, partially, when it went from, in the beginning, it was me and all the guys I trained with, and that was cool. And then all of a sudden, it transitioned into a period where it was me and all the guys that I had trained, and that was cool, getting to work with them and see them grow. And then it's transitioned into periods where, like now, New Midwest brings in so many different guys. The Christian Roses and the Dudesons and all these guys, and there's more to keep up with, and it challenges me to, can I step up and still maintain the level that I'm at with all this new competition? That's kept it interesting. And the constant changes in that perspective. But what it comes right down to is that I love this. I love doing this.
Training wrestlers over the years, you've had practically 3 different eras of training guys.
Yeah.
The USA Sports Center era, going to Harley Race, and then coming back at the NBS Pro Wrestling Training Center. How has your ability to train wrestlers evolved?
It's evolved a lot. When I first took the reins of training, it was out of necessity. It was not really something that I wanted to do at that time. Rick Mystic was hurt. Tom Larson was in and out,
Deciding whether to continue or right off into the sunset.
Right, Mike Sharp really wanted to step into that, but it was too much for Mike. It was too much for anybody to take onto their shoulders by themselves.
Right.
Real World Jeremy was in charge at that time, but he was never really one. He never had the confidence in his own abilities to where he could step into like a actual trainer role. He could show guys stuff, and he did. He helped.
Yeah.
He helped, but he was never in a position where he could take a training class and just run it really. But so it was kind of thrust upon me and Mike Shard, and we worked together, and we complemented each other, but I was very much, I moved at a very fast pace, and you kept up or you didn't. That's how I trained back then. And Mike Shard complimented me in that because he would take time with the guys, and he would, you know, if somebody was struggling with something, he'd focus on that and help them work through it, and that was not how I work. You either got it or you didn't. We kept moving, you know, which I don't think either one, or both are necessary, because sometimes Mike Shard could get bogged down helping a guy learn. Lots of times I just blew past some people that, you know, just could not keep up, and I know there were some, you know, struggles and hurt feelings over that. So neither one is better or worse. I don't want it to come off that way.
But it's always good to have more than one teacher.
Right, you know, more than one style, more than one teacher. I mean, there were things that Mike Shard was better than me at, there was things that I was better than Mike Shard at, so, you know, it was good. Now, when I first came, coming back now, my training has a lot more structure to it. I put a lot more thought into the actual training as opposed to going in. It used to be I'd go in and I'd do my workout, basically. And the guys would come with me on my workouts. So whatever I felt I needed to work on or wanted to work on, that's what we worked on that day. Now I'm able to develop, you know, not necessarily a curriculum, but I come in with a game plan. The night builds on itself a lot, or I try to make it build on itself, and I try to make the training a progressive thing rather than just, you know, all right, let's do this, now let's do this, here we go with this, you know, let's try this. So that's a lot of how it's trained now. I also would say that I'm a lot more focused on the basics and providing a good foundation, as opposed to and it's hard. Back then, I was trying to make wrestlers, and when I would look at a guy, I would start to imagine him wrestling him. And if I want to wrestle this guy, I'm going to wrestle him this way. If I want to wrestle this guy, I'm going to wrestle him this way. So that's the way I'm going to train those guys. And now I focus a little more on providing a solid base, good foundations, basics. You know, I firmly believe, and this is one of the things I took away from Harley, is that if your basics are solid, you'll be a good wrestler, or you'll at least be a workaholic wrestler. But so in providing that, I try to encourage the guys now a lot more to use their own imagination and to develop themselves. So rather than trying to turn them into something, I just try to show them the roadmap and let them pick their own course.
Who are some of the wrestlers you've taught that have been the most successful?
That have been the most successful?
Thus far, over the years. It might be a tough question to answer.
That is a tough question. I mean, there's varying degrees. I would say the guys I'm proudest of are the guys that turned out recently. And that's partially because I take more ownership in them because they reflect me more. I'm really, you know, I have a lot of guys who have helped me out. Tom Arson, Blake Steele, you know, who have helped me out of the NBS training center. But really that's my school. And that's how everybody sees it. So Derek Moss, Randy Ray, Jordan, Tony G, you know, or Perry Winkle, and Tony G.
Let's use both names.
Yeah.
So.
You know, those class of guys are really, and they've got a lot more to go. You know, they're really just getting started. But I'd say I'm the proudest of those guys. You know, there's guys like Spencer Powers, who will attribute his training primarily to me. I'm very proud of where Spencer's gone, but I can't take credit for him. You know, I helped him out. I mean, he was almost one of those guys who trained with me. I showed him a lot of stuff, helped him out, but man, he picked up that ball and ran with it himself. You know, most guys, most of the guys I trained for New Midwest that are New Midwest guys were kind of that way because I wasn't putting my stamp on those guys.
Anybody that you thought was the biggest disappointment that should have made it? Is there anybody that should have made it that didn't make it?
I would say the first guy who springs to my mind is the Marvel Shane Matthews. And
My co-worker now.
Is he?
Kind of.
I don't want it to come off like I'm disappointed in him or like he didn't make it. I mean, he did some great things. He was the New Midwest champion. Beat me for that. I love that match that I had with him. I'm disappointed in the way things happened with him. I'm disappointed in the way his wrestling career ended, and I'm disappointed that he wasn't, when he was the champion, that he wasn't in a platform or given really the platform to take it as far as I think he could have taken it. And there are various reasons for that. And I wouldn't say any of them are his fault.
No, he had.
Right.
Well, there was a not a controversy, but recent talk show, Hunter Matthews started.
Yeah.
He said in his talk show not to put your eggs all in one basket. It looks to me that Marvel went that route, divided his eggs. He pursued a career while being wrestling.
Yeah.
Although it came to a point where the career took so much time that he could not have the hobby at the same time, or the hobby or the side, the moonlighting career, I guess, so to speak.
Right, which is totally understandable. You know, I mean, everybody's got to set their priorities, and he set his in a different way. So,
and there's only so many spots in WWE.
Yeah, true. True.
Training with Harley Race, probably already touched upon. What did you learn from him that you didn't already know? Or that you didn't know?
One of the biggest things I took away from Harley Race's school was how important conditioning is to wrestling. I'd never focused, I'd always been pretty good myself just from maintaining my workouts and training on a weekly basis, that I never had conditioning issues. And it was not something, and I was always kind of with the mindset that you can control the pace of your match, and you can kind of tailor that to where your conditioning is, and that's true, but there was such a difference for me performance-wise when I was at Harley's, when I came back from Harley's, and just the conditioning that I had just changed my performance completely and made it easier and better, and overall. So conditioning was a big thing. I touched on the basics, having that good foundation and the importance of that being an important thing. So those would probably be the two biggest things that I brought back from Harley's. There was a little bit stylistically that I altered down at Harley's, and some things that I brought back that I won't go into because they're purely technical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd take forever to go through it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, I guess the importance of conditioning and just that building that good, solid foundation. But also what I brought back from Harley's, which was important to me, was that I knew what I was doing. And I don't mean that like, oh, I know everything. I mean that like, at New Midwest, we had always had, and it was something that we had all talked about, and we all kind of felt to where we had all learned from Rick Mistick and Tom Marson, who had never been to the big show, who had never, who weren't 50-year-old veterans that had been doing it, through the 70s and 80s. So there was always kind of that fear, like, there was a lot that we made up as we went. And so, I
improvised.
Yeah, and I definitely always had this fear, like, look, we're doing it completely wrong. You know what I mean?
The crowd will let you know.
Well, I mean, beyond that, we were at a point where, I'm thinking along the lines of, locker room etiquette and working with another wrestler and how the wrestlers really work and talk together. A lot of that stuff, we just were kind of like, this makes sense, let's do it this way. You know, and going down to Harley Race and learning at his school and seeing that, well, you know, there wasn't really things that I was completely off the beaten track on. So just that confidence that, all right, this is how it's supposed to be done, was a big thing for me to bring back to Marcus.
Let's go into the evolution of Midwest.
Okay.
What was your favorite era? Because we've had the theater era. I don't know if you started then. Which I completely have not seen any footage of, except that one spot in the November Rain highlight or retrospective video or whatever.
Well, that's a good thing. There's not much to see from the theater era.
Well, it would be kind of interesting to see how things looked when you started. Then there's the Stockyard era, USA Sports Center.
Yep.
The two different American Center eras.
Yeah.
The warehouse, which is now a boat and RV center, storage facility. They finally found a use for it.
Good.
And then Lanphier.
I would have to say that my favorite era would run from about the second or third show we did at Soccer World, which was, you know, the first paid shows that we were running.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so our second or third shows. Well, that era, for me, that era blends into the first run, or our run at the USA Sports Center. But I don't just want to compartmentalize it and say, well, the USA Sports Center was the best. So from about the third or fourth show in Soccer World to the last show we did in USA Sports Center, that whole era in there.
About a 2-year period.
Yeah, would be my favorite era.
What's your favorite opponents over the years?
Gosh.
You can name multiple. It's not a one correct answer type of question.
Yeah. I always loved wrestling Mike Shard. Rip Mystic. I always loved wrestling Rip Mystic. I always enjoyed working with Tom Arson. In particular, our first run together, Tom Arson really just brought a persona that most guys on our level don't bring. And when he was able to, him bringing that persona elevated me and brought me up. And just working against him that way brought me up levels. Go ahead.
No, you had more.
I was gonna say it's a lot harder for me to narrow down opponents that I love than it is for me to remember my favorite matches. One of my favorite matches of all time was my match with Marvel, and just when I lost the New Midwest Championship to him, that was just a great piece of work and really proud.
Greatest accomplishment so far?
My greatest accomplishment?
Plural.
I was always proud of the huge reactions I got for losing the New Midwest title. So, as odd as it sounds, I would say that both times I lost the New Midwest title were my greatest accomplishments.
Now, what's more fun, being a bad guy or being a good guy? Fun for you? Right now, you're being a bad guy.
Yeah, more fun for me is being a bad guy. I feel real cliche because I think most wrestlers feel that way, and I don't think that they need to. But that's my niche. I am much more comfortable with the boos than I am with the cheers. So.
Kind of to let you know you're doing your job. They're booing.
Right.
That'll do it for this edition of Nosebleed Seats. Next week we'll have part 2 of our interview with Zero Hyde. Guy Smith.
Catch the Nosebleed Seats TV on demand anytime. Just go to stlwc.lip.tv, select your episode, watch and enjoy the show. The NBS TV on stlwc.lip.tv.
Mississippi Madman, I had to catch up with you even though we're not at New Midwest. This is about New Midwest. I interviewed Benz right after Broken Promises and asked him why did he want to retire if he lost.
Which I can't understand. I still don't understand to this day.
The problem is that Benz, if he was going to have that match with you, had to put something on the line to get the match in November Rain.
I don't understand where did this come from. We're not bad blood. We just wanted to see if we got the fire. I don't know why he did this.
He was told if he was going to have the match at all, he had to put his career on the line. Now, we all know, anybody who's been paying attention, and I don't even have to name names, Benz didn't want to name names, but it's pretty obvious to me, there's only 2 people in the entire organization that have power to make matches. Both have very different motivations, although they're both equally responsible in my eyes.
So let me get this straight. Are you telling me it wasn't Ben's ideal to put his career on the line, that somebody put him up to this?
Oh, absolutely. It was somebody, either the commissioner or the promoter. One guy had to make the match, the other guy had to approve it. So that's how I would say they're both equally responsible.
See, I knew there was something to this. I knew there was something to this because I just don't understand why all of a sudden he had bad blood that he wanted to put a career on. All we was just trying to do is reignite the fire of the Midwest Monsters, and then all of a sudden he put his career on the line? What the hell? We're going to get to the bottom of this because I want to know who truly put it up to Benz to put his career on the line, and I guarantee you I will talk Benz back into the ring and we're going to take over and dominate because whoever it is, you may got a fit flow coming to you.
One last question. If you can't get Benz to come back, do you have a contingency plan? Because you teamed with Casey Jackson, your regular partner, somebody making Jam Boys. I've been waiting Casey Jackson to go back to the West. For some reason, he hasn't gone back. Would you get him to come back with you if Benz will not return?
That will be the second best plan that I would not mind. That me and KC come to New Midwest and dominate as the money making jam boy. But there's something that's unfinished business now that you brought this to my attention, that Benz may have been talked into the career match. Oh no, I'm not gonna let that rest right away. First of all, I want to get to the bottom of this, and I'm gonna get Benz in the ring, one-on-one, face-to-face, and he's gonna have to tell me who told him to put the career on the line.
All right. Hey, man, thank you.